round of applause. Please take a few moments tonight before you leave. We have 2 special galleries that are open tonight for the first time. Obviously, the century of Hinton Mills activities that you walk through in the worm wall. We also have tonight opening for the first time In the Dark, which is a wonderful children's exhibit for summer that's down the hallway past the atrium desk. If you haven't taken time to go through the miniatures, please do so. That's probably the largest collection of miniatures in the world. And we're just delighted to have that here in Maysville. Thank you, thank you, thank you for your support. We appreciate it.
Awesome.
I'd like to introduce you now to our Board of Trustees President, Mr. Tom Coe.
Thank you, CJ. To say that we are excited is the understatement of the month, not the year. When I had the opportunity to watch the Hinton family bring in the things that represent 100 years of Hinton history, I revisited some of my history. You will note out here, you will see the screen line in the box section from the Plumber's Landing Post Office. The Hinton family played an important role there. When you talk about community, you talk about people like the Hinton family that ran this type of business and provided the post office, that provided an identification of place throughout our country. And as our congressman can tell us, it's still the only federal agency that touches about everybody every day. And so to be a part of this is certainly exciting for me. Thank you for being here. This is your museum, and it is our role to make it better for you and for all of our children and grandchildren. With that, I want to introduce tonight Adam Hinton. Adam, to me, is certainly well known to most of you. Many of his family, I'm sure, are here with him tonight. But I would describe Adam as one of those people with abundant energy, abundant faith, and abundant dreams, but also willing to work hard to make those dreams come a reality. So it's good tonight to have Adam to speak to us. Adam?
Thank you, guys. I tell you what, this is really cool to have this many folks here tonight. Last year, I want to tell a little bit about how this came about. That CJ Hunter and I were on a committee together. We had a meeting here, and I hate to admit that it was the first time that I had been in the museum here. I grew up in this area and had heard about the museum, but I just didn't know what a treasure that this was. And so he was taking me through here, and it's just so cool to see all the artifacts from art history in this region, whether it has anything to do with limestone, or and right now you see the exhibit about bourbon in our region. But he asked if we would want to have an exhibit, and I thought, man, that would be awesome. But we don't have that much stuff. We can't do that. And I will tell you though that I was milling it over, and we went through the miniature section. And I'm going to tell this story myself real quick. And I was looking, and I saw the miniature of the Cox building. I thought, you know what? Yeah, we'll do something at the museum. What if we had a miniature? What if we had like a miniature of the original store? I was like, what would that cost? I mean, it might be like $8,000, $10,000. That'd be just be amazing. And he was just like, well, this one over here. He said $500,000 wouldn't get it. And I'm like, let's scratch the miniature section. So anyway, on a side note, if you haven't seen the miniatures, be sure to go do that. The entire museum's going to be open. And I just want to just say how fortunate we are in this region to have this museum is awesome. So with that said, obviously we found some things to put in here, more than Oh no! I'm afraid to see what that is.
Our appreciation for your energy.
Okay, let's see what this
Gotta
is.
see what it is.
Well, speaking of miniatures,
Curious folks.
we felt like
Oh.
That's really miniature. That's awesome. That's awesome. This is, it appears to be a jug, a whiskey, maybe a whiskey jug or bourbon jug, since we're in the birthplace of bourbon. It's a Hinton Mills jug, and then it's got tobacco leaves on it, tobacco, and that's awesome. That's awesome. Thank you. I'm afraid to ask what it costs. I don't know if I should be responsible. One of my responsible family members come forward. But I do want to say a few things about the exhibit. Is that there's two reasons that we have an exhibit here and that we agreed to do this. And one is, we wanted to tell the Hinton Mill story. It's maybe the folks that hadn't heard the story, and we also tell the story of the museum to get folks in here that maybe had never been to the museum that's affiliated with us. And the second thing is that we wanted to do is just pay tribute to all the people that got us to this standing right here, right this moment. And a few things that we realized is, one is the biggest building in the state couldn't hold all the people and all the artifacts that it would take to thank all the people that have got us here. So whether it's family members or whether it's employees that have worked for us, how do you thank somebody that's worked for you for 50 years like Bill Cooper, or 40 years like Joanne Shields, Furman Perkins, Marsh Newman? How do you, 30 years like Hilda McKenzie, how do you thank somebody? And so, and then the other thing is we recognize it's not just those long-term employees, it's folks. I went to Owensboro early this year and spoke at a breakfast, and one of the things that I was talking about is how my great-grandfather that started the business, how he had impacted other people. I was telling other people's, that was the theme of the speech, about their dinner table. And I was saying how the folks that had worked for us, even just 2 weeks, how he had impacted their dinner table. But through putting this on and going through this museum process, I realized that the people that had been with us for just 2 weeks impacted him and impacted our business, and it went very much both ways. So again, our customers and employees, obviously, but folks, I see several of our vendors here. I see Tom Duncan and Kelly Manning, and there's just so many folks over the years that have impacted our business and our family. And I guess this is an opportunity for us to share and to thank you for that. And I do briefly, again, this exhibit is about telling stories, and I hope that it tells a good story, because we're proud of our story. But I do want, many of you haven't heard the story of Hinton Mills. I do just briefly want to tell you that story. And I'm fourth generation. I've got a brother, older brother, and a younger brother that work in the business, and an uncle, or a cousin rather, first cousin that works in the business, and my uncle and my dad. But my brothers and cousin are fourth generation. But my great-grandfather started the business, and that's what he did for the most part of his life. And we started again 100 years ago, back in 1918. I'm so paranoid about this jug now. But he started back in 1918. But I really think that the story, I always tell folks that the story of Hinton Mills started way before that. When he was 9 years old, both his mom and his dad had both passed away, and he was found himself an orphan. He and his brother Ed and his sister Nell, and they moved in with their grandmother. And because of that, he, the most education he ever got was 3rd grade. And he went basically straight to work. And a lot of people ask about the little calf head logo that we have on things that you'll see. And that logo is basically the way he got his start is somebody probably felt sympathetic to the situation, little orphan Frank, and he ended up with a baby calf and raised that calf. And he sold that calf, and he bought, I'm sure, necessities, and then he took that money and bought another calf and repeat, raised the calf, sold it, and bought another one, and the next thing he's raising 2 at a time and 3 at a time. And that's how we got into our business. And then I like to tell the story about his son, my Papa Hinton. He got into the business. He went away to World War II, and when he came back from serving his country, doing what he had to do for 4 years, and he came back and got into business. But all he ever wanted to do was be a cattleman. And he had cattle, had a little farm, and he realized that I'm sure it was probably a cold December dark evening, and he was thinking, heck, I'm having to go wherever to get my feed ground. And he decided to take a risk and start a feed mill. And so that's how we got into the feed business in the 1950s. Instead of just selling farm supply stuff, we started manufacturing it. And we added the Jacob store in '62, January of '62, Mays Lake Mill here in Mason County in March of '69, and Fluffy County Farm Supply in '77, and Dwight Leslie and the Cynthiana team in 2016. So we just feel blessed to tell our story, and I'll tell you that one of the most significant things, a couple points that came out of this process for us was, I think that it just was another example of how many people it takes to make something work. Well, and it was just setting this museum exhibit up, whether it was my Aunt Janie or Laney or Jenny and my mom and my dad, Julie Fridge, Marty and Patty Johnson, a few people. I can't thank everybody for everything over the years, but I can thank the folks that really helped with this exhibit. Tracy McLean and Gary Ray for helping set so many things up. It just was one more thing to show how many people it takes to make things work. And that is the story of Hinton Mills, of us just working with folks in our community. And I'll try to end on a couple of things here before I turn it over to Congressman Massey. We talk about our business. We're obviously a farm supply business, a feed business, and that's what people think of us as. But there's really, that's not exactly true. What we are is we're a relationship and service business. There's nothing that we sell that Congressman Massey couldn't start selling in Lewis County. Please don't, but you could. But we just sell products that happen to be ag products, but really what we do is we're a logistics, service, and relationship business, and so that means we're a people business. So thank all of you people for being here. Thank you for being a part of our lives, for being a part of our business. We sincerely appreciate it. I do want to highlight a couple of things. Tom had mentioned the post office. That's something that's just that's been a part of our family for years. And if you see stuff, the second thing I wanted to highlight was the O.L. Hinton cash register. O.L. Hinton was my great-grandfather that started our business. That was his uncle, and he had a general store there since at least the 1870s in the same building that we moved into, not in 1918, but in 1923 after we moved from Goddard, Kentucky. And who knows, he might have been the guy that gave us gave my great-grandfather that first calf. So. And then the last thing that I want to mention is you see all the J-Town. There's two things about J-Town Mill. One is somebody said, why is there so many J-Town Mill signs and there's not many of the other signs? So I see all these pictures, and so I asked Ronald at the Mays Liquor Store, I said, Ronald, how come, you had all these same signs too? It's identical. He kind of shook his head and kind of looked down. He said, well, probably back in the 1980s, he said, I remember a few trucks that the beds needed patched, and we just took those signs down. They were the rafters, we cut them up and patched the truck beds. So thank goodness wherever Bill Cooper is, there's something to be said that for being a pack rat like Bill and I are and putting things away. But the other thing significant about the J-Town, you see that there's so many J-Town Mill softball team stuff. Items, that there was J-Town Mill teams that Woody Fryman went on to play in the major leagues, and eventually with the Cincinnati Reds played on that J-Town Mill softball team. And so we've got a baseball theme tonight that you guys have probably noticed so much with the Reds. So we want to invite all of you guys. We've got 1,000 tickets to the Reds game on June 23rd. We'd like, for as many people from this area to go with us. My dad, I'm going to put him on the spot. We need him to practice. If somebody could help practice catching the ball, he's going to throw out the first pitch on June 23rd at the Reds game, and we'd love for you guys to join us. With that said, there's two other folks after the congressman speaks that I just want to acknowledge. We had two friends that did pieces of artwork that I know one of them is here and one of them is on her way. One of the pieces is by a gentleman named Mike Wagner, and you can't get any more local than Mike. Not only is he the closest artist to our Plumber's Landing store, he's probably the closest person that lives to our Plumber's Landing store. So Mike has seen firsthand, he and his wife have seen firsthand the changes in Hinton Mills over the years. And one of the pieces is by Mike. You'll see some other pieces by Mike here in the museum. We thank Mike for taking time out to do that. The other piece, and again, we thought it was very fitting being in the museum to have some art pieces, is by a young lady that's going to be here later named Eden Elwell. And they live just outside of Louisville, and she's in the 9th grade, just finishing up the 9th grade this week. So hopefully she'll get here before we unveil that painting. But with that said, I'm going to turn it over to another person that understands that that things happen in life not because of inanimate objects or money or whatever else it is, that it takes people to make things happen, and that's our good friend, Congressman Thomas Massey. So,
I know why Adam is fascinated by miniature things, because every one of his ideas is big. And they've been great ideas too. I got to tell you a story about my farm labor, my help. My son, I've got 4 children, but my third one has been working for me for $10 an hour on the farm since he was 12 years old. And he decided I wasn't a good boss. So he wanted to go get a job, a real job, not working for me. So he went and got him a job making $8.53 an hour doing construction. He's tired of the farm. And he got his first paycheck after 2 weeks of working. And they took out the federal withholding, the state withholding, the local withholding. And my wife took him down to the bank to cash it. He was so proud to see. I'd never given him a pay stub that had his name on it. He was so proud of that. She looked at his paycheck and saw how small it was. And she said, you know, you don't like your dad as a boss, but you should probably go back to working for him, shouldn't you? He made a lot more money on the farm. And he pulled the check back and he pointed to the federal withholding. He said, Dad's working for me now. And I know Hinton Mills has provided, in 100 years, has provided a lot of jobs to the community. And not jobs that go outside, but jobs that stay here, jobs that stay local. I know a lot of people have had their first job at Hinton Mills. I guarantee you, the first paycheck they've gotten was from Hinton Mills. And that is a very important role to serve in the community, to be able to give people their first job. But you've got people that have been with you their entire careers, and that's amazing. I want to tell you how I met Bud and Paula. My wife and I were campaigning for county judge executive in Lewis County, and we decided the best way to get votes was to get out the banjo and the bass and go around and play some bluegrass music. And that's how we ran into Bud and his wife, was at the Tollsboro Smokehouse playing. And anyways, then with Adam and Nathan, they sold me a squeeze chute, a crowding pin, and a waterer a few years ago, and delivered it to my farm. And I asked them, is there a discount for congressmen? And they added 10% to the price. So I had a little bit of conflict of interest here. Just disclosed. They tried to gouge me. No. I know how important it is to stay connected to your past. The artifacts here. I'm just going to say, have you all seen the show Hoarders? I'm glad the Hittons are hoarders, and that the pickers didn't get to them yet. Otherwise, we wouldn't have these things. But I also know how hard it is to stay in business for 100 years. I mean, there just aren't many places that can do that. Through the Depression, my grandfather, Gale Denham, was an entrepreneur in Lewis County. He had the locker plant where you could, before people had refrigerators, they'd keep their stuff there. And he would sell ice once people got ice boxes. And my mom still has some of the ice tongs that came out of there. And to have these physical connections to our ancestors is just, that really tells the story. I mean, you can read it in a book, but until you can go see it and see that it's real and think about how they use those tools, it doesn't really come home. But it comes home here tonight. And thanks, Bud, for showing me around and showing me the cash register there. I just want to be on the timeline. I saw Mitch McConnell visit Hinton Mills like in 2012 or something. You should have Adam Hinton visits Massey Farm in 2015, whatever that was. But anyways, yeah, it's very important to stay connected to our past. Perseverance. I asked Bud what's the key here for Hinton Mills, and he said it's perseverance. And these folks really have persevered. But it's by responding to the community. I mean, the technology changes, the things that you can sell and make money change, the things that the community needs change. And you all have, it's clear from the artifacts here, but also from visiting your store that you respond, your stores. By the way, speaking of big, you span 2 congressional districts. But it's clear that you respond to the community's needs, and you guys are always in the community. Adam is connected, not politically through ambition, but politically because he wants to make sure that I understand the community's needs. He's got me on speed dial. I hear from him once a month. And it's just about something that we need here. And it's good to have somebody that's that concerned about the community. Wow, we got some food falling from the sky. But in any case, it's an honor to be here tonight. It's an honor to be in the presence of the Hinton family. I see a lot of grandkids here. It's pretty clear that this is going to go on for at least another 50 years. And it won't just be in the museum, it's also going to be in these stores. So thank you and congratulations.
There was a couple of things that I probably should have said real quick before. One is we wanted to try to crowd everybody into this space. We always talk about the swamp. We were trying to make it as muggy as we could get if we had everything, so you feel right at home and get you primed for going back to DC. So, no, there was a couple things. I really can't emphasize enough how much my dad's 3 sisters and my mom, how much time that they put into this, and I really don't feel like I gave them the due tribute. And then the other thing, the thing that I'm most proud of now is that timeline is so cool, and Marty and Patty and Julie, thank you guys, because you guys, if John Phillips is here, he wins the prize for coming the farthest. He came up 850 miles. He's my boss from when I worked at Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University, and he'll know what I'm talking about when those last minute ideas that you have and the day before. This was a human cannonball kind of idea that we had to come up with it just a few days and make it happen. You guys did awesome. So the last thing is I need to just thank all of you guys again for being a part of not just this particular day, but our life. This is what we would consider the kickoff to our 100 years events. We've got 3 signature events. This is one. This is the history piece, June 23rd. Again, that's just the fun piece. People were saying, why are you going to the baseball game? We just wanted something fun that has nothing to do with work, that we could all just go and enjoy ourselves together. My great-grandmother is who introduced me to the Cincinnati Reds. I go over, she lived to be 107. You see my daughter's named after her, Laura. She lived to be 107. We go over to her house and watch the Reds play on Sunday afternoons after church. And my mom and dad would always tell us not to ask. If she asked you if you want anything to eat, say no. And so anyway, this is what would happen. She would get up and she'd get over to her walker, and this was when she was in her 90s. And she would say, you boys want anything to eat? And we'd just sit there, we wouldn't say anything. We'd look at each other, and she'd say, I know you do, we want some popcorn. So I remember one day she went in there and fixed some popcorn, and when she left the room, and my mom said, I told you guys not to ask for anything. And my brother was probably about 6 at the time. He said, we didn't ask, she told us we were going to have it. So, but anyway, this exhibit is full of so many memories. We're going to share 2 of those. I don't know if Mike is close, if he wants to come down here, and I don't know that Eden's here yet, but I do want to unveil these 2 paintings. And then everything that's here tonight, we're going to move. It's going to be here until, come on up, Mike, if you don't mind, until in late August, and that's the 3rd event, is our ceremony. It's August 31st, September 1st at the Plumber's Landing location. It's close to where the beginning as we could be. September 1st, our great-grandfather, Frank L. Hinton, his birthday was September 1st. So it's very fitting. We're going to close down all 5 locations that day, keep everybody on the clock, and all go to Plumber's Landing and kind of have a carnival-type feel that day. And we'd like for all you guys to be there for that. So with that said, unless CJ has something else to say, we're going to unveil these 2 pictures. And Mike, yours is on this side. And again, keep in mind that Mike is from a bird's eye view of the Plumber's Landing store, and this is. This is the meal at Plumber's Landing that was first built, and there's so many stories I learned through this process that it used to be oriented a different direction, and they turned it a different direction. They've added onto it, but it came in the 1950s, and then in the background is the store that used to be there. That O.L. Hinton, my great-grandfather's uncle, was there in the 1870s, and we were there until the early 90s. And there's even the old bridge that used to be there that we all remember walking across. To get to the school bus or to get to the meal or the store. But anyway, I gave Mike a few pictures and said, hey, can you pull this off? Here's bits and pieces. Can you make something? And he definitely made something. So Mike, you want to say anything at all? Or?
The only thing I was going to say was I enjoyed doing it. But if Adam asks you to do something, make sure he gives it to you in time, because he gave you this like a week and a half before it's done.
That's true. That's true.
So keep on it. Otherwise, he won't get it to you.
My brother said I have two speeds, and it's late and slow. So we do thank Mike for his contribution to this. There's at least, I think, 2 other pieces here that are Mike's. And I want to show one other piece. This is, and she'll be here later. This is Eden Elwell did this. This is a picture of our great-grandmother, Alora. And that's you'll see this picture maybe a couple times. We're wearing these chickens, and that's one of my favorite pictures. And I'll close with this. Please come up and look at it and see all the stuff in the background. And Eden captured how important all the people were to this. And my, to me, my great-grandmother was kind of the centerpiece. It's got the agriculture aspect to it, but it's also got all these folks in the background, and you can see that when you get close. And I do want to close, unless CJ has something to say, by saying, one of the things that made her so significant in all of our lives, I think anybody here that their last name is Hinton or married to Hinton or ever knew her, is just realizing her perspective in life, and that she understood, on our Christmas cards, a lot of times it says faith, family, friends, and farming, and she understood the exact priority order that those needed to be in, and that faith was number one. And so she and my great grandfather were definitely the centerpiece of this, but there's so many people that made the wagon wheel of Hinton Mills turn, and it's all of you guys in this room and many more. So thank you for being here, and enjoy the rest of the evening.